Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. We're going to wait a minute or two to allow others to join. If you know of someone who may enjoy this Facebook Live bond informational meeting, please tag them in the comments or share the feed with them now. So again, we're going to wait just another minute to let those who may want to join our Facebook Live event kind of hop on in, and please share it. For those of you that have joined our other events, welcome, and we look forward to a great conversation again today. Thank you. All right, well, good afternoon. We will go ahead and get started. So we look forward to discussing the topic of community with Alan Jaros, who's the manager of both our Farm and Nature Center, and Andy Gignac, the associate principal at West Hills. Again, if you know someone who may appreciate this conversation, please tag them in the comments now. Alan and Andy, I appreciate you joining us today. Thank you.
Good to be here. Thanks, Pat.
So we'll get started with the first question. So Andy, you and I have kind of got to know each other a little bit, you know, coming on board from our first awkward meeting together until now, really understanding each other a lot better. And I know you worked in Bloomfield Hills schools for a very long time, even though you're still a very young person. But I'm pretty sure Alan's got you beat. You know, he's an alum, he's graduated from the Bloomfield Hills schools. So when I think about
Andy.
this, you know, I reflect on both of your combined years of history in the district. And if you could share with the group watching, what have each of you enjoyed about the community? And what has changed about the community or community experience since your first days in Bloomfield Hills School? So Alan, we'll kind of start with you, you know, your perspective from a student up until now as a district employee.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. You know, interestingly enough, I never thought that I'd be doing this work. Yeah, I think people ask, you know, what's your background? I have a background in adult education. I have a master's in business. You know, that being said, I was an Andover graduate, and I remember freshman year going through that booklet of classes and flipping to a class called Agri and Animal Science. And I remember going home so excited to my mom and dad. I said, I want to take that class. It's on a farm. Where is there a farm? Again, this is my 9th grade year. They didn't even realize we had a farm. We had moved into the district when I was in 8th grade. You know, that being said, I wasn't able to take that class until I was a junior in high school, but it set me on a course that really allowed me to find this passion for education, essentially learning science in the context of the outdoors, where it's visible, where it's live, where it's a living laboratory. So trajectory takes me to Michigan State University, and then back here as the director of this site in the Nature Center. It's really a neat story. You know, I tell folks, and I see students today who say, you know, Mr. Jaros, the best science class I ever had was here in the outdoors, because the book is one thing, but to see it come alive makes it real. It makes it meaningful. So Andy, top that story.
So Andy, same question for you. So what have you enjoyed about the community, and what has changed about the community or community experience since your first days in the Bloomfield Hills Schools District?
Yeah, so I started my career here in Bloomfield Hills as a 5th grade teacher at Lone Pine Elementary in the fall of 2000. So about 20 years ago, which is it's really hard to believe. I don't feel like I am possibly old enough to have half my life now working in Bloomfield Hills. But, you know, when I first arrived in Bloomfield, I think Alan hit on a couple of things that were just like, really? We have a farm in our school district in Metro Detroit, in suburban Detroit. We have a nature center. And then as I learned a little bit more about the Bloomfield Hills community, I grew up in a community maybe about 10 miles from here, but I was shocked that there weren't really any public parks in Bloomfield Hills. The schools are the parks. You know, as my years progressed in the district, I realized what a passion and love this community has for the arts, for programs such as robotics, the athletics program. So really having that comprehensive program and those opportunities for our students and for our community members to utilize what the school district brings to this area in order to enhance life in this area. So, my wife and I had the opportunity, I think in 2003, we chaperoned the Andover choir at the time to Europe, and we visited 9 different countries. And as we toured around Europe, people would stop us as these high school students at the public high school from Bloomfield Hills were performing in Notre Dame Cathedral, and say, well, where is this performing arts school? Where is this? These kids are really talented and good. And we're like, well, this is the community high school, just the public high school in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, suburb of Detroit. And I think it really illustrates the opportunities that we've been able to provide and the commitment we have to our families and our students in helping them find that sense of belonging and connection, and let them soar within whatever area fits with them. So as far as things that have changed, one thing that hasn't changed is our funding. It's really stayed stable, or maybe even a little less, it seems,
Right.
From 20 years ago. So I think when you look at how we've invested in our buildings to maintain them without taking away opportunities and maintaining that comprehensive program, it means the lawns get mowed a lot less than what they once did back in the fall of 2000. There's things like that I've definitely noticed over the years. And the one thing I'm really proud of is how we've really worked hard in our decisions to make sure that we are able to provide the same or as close to the same opportunities as we have for our students.
Great, thank you. So the next question, I'll open it up to both of you and feel free to hop in. So from your perspective, what is lacking in our community experience? And how do you think this bond proposal would help address those needs that we have as a community?
I don't know if you want to jump. Do you want me to go, Alan?
Yeah, I guess I'll start.
Yeah, go for it.
It's interesting. I'm in my mid 30s. Friends of mine that I graduated high school with, they're looking for a forever, right? When I graduated college, it was the time period where we were losing talent to other states, right? There was a big discussion about that, and people are coming home. And I am obviously a huge advocate for this community and often promote why this is the right place to be. But what I hear is, well, where's the downtown? Where are the parks? Where can we get really schools, the best schools? No doubt Bloomfield Hills schools. But that being said, we don't really have a downtown community, and we don't really have a comprehensive parks and rec system, but we do have some incredible assets like the farm and the nature center. In fact, nationally, you don't find farms of this size in or so close to a downtown area. If you have 50% of the population, give or take, lives in this tri-county area. And what we know is people want to know and be connected to natural resources and where their food comes from. And as a Bloomfield Hills Schools student, as a parent living in the Bloomfield Hills Schools community, or a taxpayer, you have access to this site to explore those things.
So Alan, going along that same line. So me being new, started in January, I was shocked that there was a farm and a nature center as well. If you remember during my interview, which you probably don't remember, I talked about the farm probably way too many times. And I even said during the interview, I'll stop talking about the farm. It's just amazing that the school district would have that type of opportunity. So if you could share just a little bit more about what's so special about the farm and nature center. And I've heard residents refer to these two as the gems of the district. And so what happens at these sites for students, community members, and other visitors currently? And then maybe a little bit about what will happen if the bond passes for the same group, for students, community members, and visitors that come to the Farm and Nature Center on a daily basis.
Yeah, I remember that, Pat. I was actually quite excited to see you talk about the farm and the nature center. We've been here since 1967, the farm and the nature center in 1968. And people are shocked to know that. People are also shocked to know that we see over 35,000 visitors annually. Not so much in 2020, but that last year in 2019, 35,000 folks. These are field trips, summer camps, community events like our fall festival and our spring fling, our winter park. This is a place that, while we'd say is the best kept secret, it's also a place that a lot of people know about and value and appreciate. Unfortunately, given the site has some needed upkeep, it's not accessible to everyone. I'm talking about handicap accessibility. We have pathways that are gravel. We have barns that have 6 or 8 inch lips to get into them. I could tell you stories about this pathway where wheelchairs that can't even access the barn. So for one, and really most importantly, the bond would provide us with the needed resources to update the site and make it accessible. The same thing goes for the nature centers, the nature center. The best practice right now in outdoor spaces is to create accessible pathways in nature. That doesn't mean paving. I hear that quite often. We don't want to pave the pathways, but we do want to offer places for all folks to be able to explore nature and be in the outdoors, especially now. We can't escape the fact that we're in the COVID time period. The outdoors is safe. It's the safest place to be. We've heard that from experts, from doctors, and we have these outdoor spaces that we can be in. Maybe this is my shameless plug where the nature center is currently open. The visitor center is not, but you could walk the trails. And then on Saturday, we will open the farm to casual visitation. So Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, you can come out and with your membership, walk the farm, visit the animals, walk the trails. Something that we haven't been able to do and haven't done in almost 25 years without an appointment. So
I want to make sure I'm kind of getting everything. So you talk about how great the Farm and Nature Center is, but you also said there's an issue with accessibility, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone can go to it. And I also heard you say that it's really important from a physical standpoint and mental health standpoint that we provide outdoor opportunities that are accessible for all people within our community. And is it fair to say, even outside of COVID-19, it's still a great place to go, get physical activity, self-care as far as your own mental health, just to be around nature, to be around animals and things like that?
Absolutely. In little tangent here, I spent 10 years working for MSU Extension within the College of Agriculture. I had an academic appointment. Some may know as the director of the Tollgate Farm in Novi. That's an MSU-owned facility. And I worked with a group of researchers on place-based education, place-based learning, and place making. And if people get a chance who are listening now, if you're interested, do a little bit of research on your own. Place making is the idea that we have an attachment and a connection to place or places that are near and dear to us. And when we look at what's happening in Detroit and the resurgence in both the urban agriculture movement, but just neighborhoods changing what place means. And so for us in Bloomfield Hills, and I've had this conversation quite frequently, that barn that's in my background, that's a placemaker. It's something that's recognizable. It's something that brings a whole lot of feelings to folks who have had these incredible experiences at this site. For some, place looks like downtown. For some, place may be in their own backyard. But placemaking and place-based ed, it's really fabric to the core of community development, and these places they are fabric to our core.
Appreciate it. So next question, open it up to both of you again. So we've talked a little bit about the community, STEAM education, and just experiential learning. Alan, you've already talked about that a little bit, not just learning about it in a book or reading a PDF file, but actually living the learning that goes on. So we know that STEAM education and STEAM community experiences are very important and something that we're looking forward to offering more opportunities for our community. Can you each talk a little bit about STEAM and what you're most excited about in this proposal in regards to STEAM education?
For sure, yeah. When I think about engineering and design and the arts and the role of science and mathematics and all of this, I can't help but have some pride in boast about our robotics program within the district and really their role as one of if not the top program in the state. Currently, their robotics home is the band room over at Lasser, and some of the adjoining rooms there was a design lab and whatnot, which works for them. It's repurposing space. It's being responsible with the space that we have within the district. In the bond, it is exciting to see that we are able to repurpose the current maintenance building on Franklin Road into our STEAM or robotics center for the district. It would be a standalone building. From the hours that they are working in the heat of the season, they're going until 10 o'clock at night with kids, and they want to be able to walk out and go to school the next day. Having that standalone building will be a huge asset to the community. In addition to that, when you look at the elementary spaces and the middle school buildings, the enhancements, the additions, the renovations that are called out in this bond are going to provide spaces within each of the buildings where there's the room to be able to have a breakout group who is going through the design process. They're investigating, they're researching, they're designing, and then they're building, and then they're analyzing what they built and sometimes restarting what they did, but they'd have the space to be able to do those types of things in teams. West Hills is pretty fortunate as we were preparing for the high school quite a few years ago now, the building of the high school, we were able to repurpose some spaces at West Hills and to watch how those spaces are used on a daily basis when school is in session. It's exciting. It's energizing to see groups of kids collaborating in space. And, I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about with the STEAM lens is that you have across the district, there will be equitable opportunities for students to have that space. And beyond students, some of the clubs and the groups that exist within the community utilizing these spaces as they do. So I'm really excited about having our own STEAM center as well as the spaces that we'll have within each of the buildings.
Andy, I agree with you 100%. We know that having a standalone facility, roughly 15,000 square feet, is only going to help prepare the students for the future. Whether it's science, engineering, math, we know where the jobs are. There's no secret to where the jobs are right there. And having that standalone space will also allow us to pivot. If 5 years from now, there's a big push in AI, then that can be a focal point as well. And just having an area where students can go and collaborate, and then looking at summer programs. I had a chance to be in your building and see some of the things they're doing, whether it was Lego Mindstorm or things like that. But to offer those type of summer opportunities in a dedicated space with the type of technology our students need to learn to move forward in these areas will be phenomenal. And then the opportunities to work with either companies or universities to co-sponsor some of our programs and really create that pipeline with the high school for the pathways that not only do we have the center, but then you have a pathway to a university, you have a pathway to an internship, and all the different companies that are involved in STEAM and STEM in the metropolitan area. We really could set our students up to know where they're going to college by freshman or sophomore year, and the potential of having a job down the road because they will have been vetted during the internship for 1 or 2 years and have the ability to prove themselves, knowing that now I'm graduating, I'm going to college A, I'm going to have 2 job offers when I come out because I already have interned there. That really is part of the next step of what I see our district doing for our students to better prepare them for what the future is going to be. Alan, anything you want to share on this about the Farm or Nature Center? I know you spoke a little bit about it already as far as, the opportunities they have for the experiential hands-on activities and learning.
Yeah, forgive me, Pat, if I talk out of turn here, but I got to tell you, kids in school today, many of them, they're bored. They're looking for some meaningful connection. I got to tell you just a quick story. I had a student call me. It was last week, Wednesday, and she's at Michigan State University. She said, Mr. Jaros, I don't like my major anymore. She's a business student. I want to do something in college where I could teach kids the way that I got to learn when I took my classes at the farm. And to me, that another one of those aha moments when you can connect the real world. And fortunately, here in Bloomfield schools, between the STEM center, the farm, the nature center, and our just vast resources, we can connect the real world to what's being delivered, the content in the classroom. It's a holistic learning opportunity. But to keep these spaces relevant, it requires an infusion of capital, right? It requires us to pass this bond.
And the other thing that we can really leverage if the bond passes, so we've got the standalone STEAM Center. So we know the students are getting what they need there. Alan, the upgrades at the Farm and Nature Center and the additional offerings you're looking at as far as from the instructional point. Imagine if we now take our retirees who have experience in all these fields and they're looking for something maybe to do during the day. If we can get them to volunteer and include them, they bring with them all this professional experience that they can help our students with. Our teachers do a great job, but our teachers were trained to teach, not to be a mechanical engineer, a metallurgic engineer, a civil engineer, to be a professional artist. They weren't designing, the Mackinac Bridge or things like that, which of course that's not what they went to school for. But if we can leverage in these retirees so that they can also be part of what we're doing with our students, we really can have a program that's second to none, not just in Michigan or the Midwest, but nationally. And based on the retirees I've met so far in this community, they're very willing to be involved. They really want to be involved. And the things they've done in their career are beyond impressive. I'm thinking about former CEOs, CFOs, CEOs that have done amazing things. So I think that's a great way we can also bring our retirees in as part of this, and they can get to know our students as well.
That's a good point, Patton. I might mention, folks don't always know about the many things that go on here, but we actually have the largest Master Gardener volunteer cohort in terms of hours served in the state of Michigan. That's incredible. The gardens here are beautiful, thanks to them. Preservation Bloomfield and the Friends of Preservation Bloomfield is a nonprofit that moved the Barton House and the Craig Log Cabin here. It raised over $1 million in counting. These are our community members who see the value of this community space and how it contributes to teaching and learning for our students, for the next generation in this community. That's really special and it's really powerful. And there aren't many districts who have these assets. I just want to point out the volunteer cohort.
I agree. So next question. So Andy, this one's going to be for you. So the proposal calls for a new pool at the North Middle School. Can you talk a little bit about middle school athletics and community recreation and why this is an important piece of the puzzle?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because it really, pool space has definitely been an issue in our district for quite a few years. And, just as an example, our middle school swim teams use the high school pool, our one pool in the district. And really, they're limited as to the times that they have access to the pool based on conflicts with the high school teams and whatnot. In addition to that, our community has very, very little access to the pool at the high school as well, because it's being fully utilized in all those times by the middle school and high school programs. The beauty of this bond and having a pool built at the North Middle School, it would be just the design and what you can do as you're designing. You can design it with the community in mind, and where you place the pool, how you lock it off from the rest of the building, how you provide access to that pool. It really becomes a community asset where you can run toddler swim classes during the day while school is still going on, because it's in a separate part of the structure there and isolated from the rest of the building. For our middle school athletes, it really will provide them the more ideal times for practice. They're not going home from school at 3:30 and then having to make their way back up to the high school pool at 6 p.m. because that's the only time slot that was available to them. It's really exciting. It's exciting to see that we will have that resource if the bond passes. And when I extend it to the broader community programs and the community rec, and that our school district is the Parks and Rec for Bloomfield Hills. And when I look at groups like Bloomfield Players and the stages, the number of stages that we will have in the theaters and the upgrades to the theaters that we'll have within the district will really provide much better resources for our arts community as well, and giving them more opportunities to be able to rehearse and perform and hold all the sessions that go with that. I know West Hill Stage is currently used quite a bit, and it'll open up even more spaces and upgrade the theaters that we have, both at the North Middle School campus and the South Middle School campus, while also continuing to have the stage that we have here at West Hills and the one at East Hills. So really should provide a lot of access for the different community groups that look to use the spaces that we have.
Great, thank you. So Alan, we'll come back to you. Tough question, so I'll give you a couple seconds to think about your response before you have to answer. If you had to pick one thing that excites you the most about this proposal, the proposal being the bond, what is it and why? And Alan, just to be fair, it doesn't have to be the nature center or farm. I know your passion's there. If it is about the nature center and farm, that makes sense as well. But if you had to pick one thing that really like, wow, this is really exciting to me, what is it and why?
Oh gosh, that is a tough one.
And they're all good things, right? So
yeah, they're all good things.
They're all good.
I gotta tell you,
them all. I get that.
Pat,
If you had to pick one.
If I had to pick one outcome of the bond proposal, and the many meetings we've had, I mean, we've spent a number of hours in community stakeholder meetings, preparing to put this on the ballot. It's the conversation I've had with our community members, residents, seniors, kids, parents, and the identity and the passion they have for the work that we do. And it makes me excited and happy that I made the choice to come back to this role and as the director of the Farm and Nature Center. Maybe that wasn't what you were looking for, but I think it's important to point out that it's the community identity that drives this district. It's such an excellent place to be.
Oh, great answer. Thank you. So Andy, same question. Let me preface it. You love everything. I get everything about the bonds, great. But if you had to pick one thing that you're most excited about, what is it and why?
It's such a challenging question because obviously there's so many components that are really powerful within the bond. I come back to words like transformational and longevity and planning for the future and preserving the opportunities that we have. And I guess that's probably the best answer I can give that kind of captures where my thinking is it really is preserving opportunities for our students, our community members, and planning for the future with that. The investment that we would make right now would really impact this community dramatically for the next 50 years. With that support, we really can preserve and add to what we currently do. And when you look at a community, it's why do I want to live there? And I think that schools are usually way up on that list for people, whether they have kids in school or not. They know that they're the attractiveness of the community, that is a key component of it. And I think when you can invest in community assets and enhance those community assets as this bond calls for, it's really about transforming and preserving what we have, and making Bloomfield Hills the amazing place it is to live, to work, to be. So that's the best I can do there without running through a list of 35 things that I think are pretty awesome about it.
So Andy, you're not going to give us just that one thing? Putting you on the spot. It can be a hard pass. You want me to give you my one first and my why?
Yeah, you go for it, Pat.
So same thing I said to both of you. I think everything makes sense and everything's great in there. But if I had to pick one thing, it would be the STEAM Center. And the reason why, when you look at the science and you look at the math and you look at engineering, like I said before, the jobs are there. As a parent of two in college and a rising senior, and just being a parent in general, the more experience they can have that's experiential and hands-on, better guidance we can give them when they go off to college. What I always hate as an educator, I shouldn't say hate that, it kind of disappoints me, is when a student doesn't have the opportunity to really learn about what they may want to major in. They go off to college, they go into a ton of debt, they get a degree, they get the job, and then they say, I hate what I'm doing. I don't want to do this. And now, Mr. Watson, I don't know what to do. I'm $85,000 in debt. I'm miserable. I want to go back to school. I wish I would have known this is what a civil engineer was like. I mean, I read about it, but I didn't realize this is what the job was going to be like. But if we have an opportunity to have our kids go to this great, 15,000 square feet, center and really learn from elementary all the way through, by the time they graduate, they're going to have a sense or an idea of whether or not engineering might or might not be for them, or science might or might not be for them. And then having these, working with the high school on the pathways, they've already got 2 starting next year. They have those internships and say, you know what, I've done it. I definitely want to be, I'm going to major in botany. There's no question. I've been with Alan at the farm. I've been with Alan at the nature center. I've gone to the STEAM Center and been able to participate in things there. I know what the job's going to look like. I've done it already on a day-to-day basis at my internship at the Farm and Nature Center. I'm passionate about it. I'm going to Iowa State University because they have a great botany program. We're good to go. And so that is the thing. If I had to pick one thing that, again, everything's good, nothing's bad. But if I had to pick one thing, that would really be it. And when I look at, you talk about transformation. Imagine that you have these opportunities, your junior and in particular your senior year, where it's all based on really learning about what you might want to do in the future and having those experiences so you can make the best educated decision. And as a parent that's paying 2 college bills, the prices aren't going down. Even with COVID, both schools my children attend are upping their prices for next year, and looking at what it's going to be for my rising senior when she goes off to college, it's not going to get less expensive. And I know for her, and this is personal for me, and everyone's situation is different, she has no idea what she wants to be. And she hasn't been afforded the opportunity to have some of those experiences we're talking about right now that could be a difference maker in her life. I mean, the only opportunity I could get her this summer was thanks to Alan and bringing her out to work on the farm and learn what's going on the farm here. So I can tell you, as someone that's not just new to the district, but lives in a different community, these type of opportunities are unheard of, and they make all the difference in the world. That being said, Andy, not that you have to have one thing, but just circling back and applying a little more friendly push.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's definitely the big thing, and especially when I'm looking at the K-8 buildings, which is really the design was mostly focused on K-8, and I think that we have some awesome enhancements for high school as well. But it comes down to the flexible spaces. I think the flexible spaces in your elementary and middle school buildings, learning doesn't look like what it looked like a few decades ago, or even a decade ago. And when you factor in the flexible spaces that we will have as a part of this, as a part of the renovations that come from this bond, and you partner that with the technology that will be integrated into these flexible spaces, we're going to have opportunities to prepare our kids for the world you're describing, Pat, for the pathways that you're describing. I obviously bring the lens of that upper elementary, middle school more than anything, because that's the life I live as a West Hills associate principal, and giving those kids opportunities to discover who they are, and having the space be an element of that learning that occurs to help kids figure out, their passions. hopefully puts them on that trajectory as they enter into high school and see the different pathways that they have in front of them. It gives them a little bit more of a clearer vision. So flexible spaces and the technology that will be within those flexible spaces will be my number one then, Pat. There it is.
All right, appreciate it. You're on record. This is recorded. There's no turning back. And again, all the options are great. Everything is there for a reason. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up now. Alan, any final thoughts that you'd like to share with those watching or will watch later? Especially August 4th is literally right around the corner for the bond vote. And we know a lot of people have already voted, and the rest have until, up until August 4th. But Alan, any last thoughts?
I can't highlight how important this bond vote is to what we do. These spaces, while they're phenomenal, they need updates. I mean, accessibility is one very minor piece of all the updates that are required for us just to do what we're doing today. That's not even dreaming of all the opportunities moving forward. So thank you, Pat, and for taking this opportunity to have this conversation, and look forward to chatting after August 4th.
Sounds good. Andy, any last thoughts?
Yeah, again, thanks for having me here today. It's interesting as I think about this community. It's not a community that has a ton of open land. It's not your further out suburbs where they're turning farms into subdivisions and building brand new schools. It's time to reinvest in our schools. You look, most of them were built 50, 60, 70 years ago, and we've done a really nice job through sinking funds and whatnot to maintain as best we can, but without a significant investment. I think most homeowners think about it, if they had their kitchen for 50, 60 years, they're probably looking to renovate and make some improvements on that. And it really is time to invest in our community and in our kids and our families. And I think that the thought, Alan already had mentioned how many meetings, discussions, and bringing in different perspectives. This isn't something that just crept up. It's been a really well thought out process where different members, all different representatives from our community, whether it's retirees or students, families with students in Bloomfield schools, families without students in Bloomfield schools, have all brought their different perspectives. And this plan incorporated it's as detailed as we got, and I think that it incorporates all those different perspectives into it. And I really, I'm just hopeful that the community sees that it is the time to invest, and I'm very appreciative of the consideration for this.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And thank everyone for watching. We do have one more Facebook Live next week regarding the bond, so feel free to tune in then. For those of you that have additional questions, feel free to go to www.bloomfield.org and click on the tab for the August 4th bond. Or if you have individual questions, feel free to reach out to me directly at pwatson@bloomfield.org. We can set up a virtual meeting or a social distance meeting, or if you want me to come to your homeowners association meeting and just kind of provide more information, more than willing to do that. I'm actually going to one at Fox Hills tonight, so I'm looking forward to that. So that should be a lot of fun. There's an outdoor meeting that's going on this evening. So until next time, everyone have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.